Come on, friends. I'm coming on today to talk about something that is kind of difficult to talk about in the sense that it can very easily be misconstrued, and that is not what I want at all. So I had some hesitation on even sharing this, but I think it's important um, to talk about. So the topic at hand is essentially post transplant, what they don't tell you about. Um, and transplant does do a great job of educating you on, like, you're going to be on immunosuppression. You got to make sure you take your meds at the same time every day, morning and night. You got to make sure you go for your labs. Be diligent about that. And when we make changes to your dosage, you got to make sure you make those changes and go for your repeat labs to make sure your levels are where they need to be. And having a good support system and having good health care so that you can maintain your transplant afterwards. And, all those kinds of things they do an absolutely wonderful job at doing. And the part that isn't so great, I think, is not their fault. It's just that every body is different. So every body responds to a transplant differently. And there's no way to be able to predict that. So it's just something that isn't really addressed. So I think to a normal, healthy person, they think like, oh, you got a transplant and your life is all better. You may be better than you were before your transplant, depending on what was wrong with you. And for some people, that is absolutely the case. And for other people, it is not the case. Um, and I feel like sometimes for those people like me who have a whole lot of other things wrong with them, and still have problems on a daily basis, it makes us feel like we're failing, and it makes us feel guilty, or at least it does me. I can't speak for everybody. We all have our own, we're all walking our own path and have our own things that we, have in our lives and deal with. So again, this is just from me personally. But was I better after a transplant? Absolutely 100%. On dialysis, I was in and out of the hospital constantly, like out of the hospital for a week or two, in the hospital for a whole week, and repeated that cycle over and over and over again the whole time that I was on dialysis. Does that happen anymore? No. And I'm very grateful and thankful for that. But I thought, and my husband thought, because that's what we were told, that after my transplant everything was going to be all better, and my husband clung to that like it was his lifeline. And of course I looked forward to that, and my life is better, absolutely better. But I am not who I was. This is not the same body that I had before my transplant. So things happen to your body when you're on immunosuppression. Going through dialysis is really hard on the body, so things happen to the body when you're on dialysis. All kinds of things happen, and you get older. You get older. Everybody gets older, and things happen. So when you put all that together, it's not necessarily that you're better than you were after your transplant. You're not as better than you were before your transplant. It's things accumulate and happen. That make things a little bit more challenging because you are immunosuppressed, and you do have to be careful about certain things, and certain things happen in the body because of immunosuppression. And I think that's something that's not really, or at least with me, it wasn't ever touched on. And it just would have been nice to know in advance that this stuff happens, and it's not that you're doing anything wrong. You haven't failed. You haven't messed up. You don't need to feel guilty, even though I do. I wanted to get my second chance at life and go change the world. Like, God gave me a second chance. I need to do something. And that still bothers me 14 years later, that all of my other conditions have made daily life difficult. But I wouldn't change anything. I am so grateful to my sister for giving me a kidney. I got to spend time with my family. I got to watch both my sisters get married. One had her babies already. The other one's just starting. My brother and sister-in-law have a baby and another one on the way. Like, I would never have been able to meet them or experience them to know me, any of that, without the gift of life that she gave me. And I am eternally grateful for that. And I think it's just important to know that sometimes the days are hard, but life is good. And you're not doing anything wrong if you're not all unicorns and rainbows post transplant. So that's my message today, what they don't tell you post transplant, and that every body is different. You can't predict what's going to happen or how you're going to be. So please just keep that in mind if you're in my shoes, and know that you're doing a great job. See you next time.